pay people who were worst affected by the disruption caused by strike action.
What about the low-paid restaurant staff who miss a day's work and a day's pay because of a stoppage called by a handful of transport workers? What about the self-employed builder who has to turn down a week-long job because of a strike by teachers means that his kids can't go to school? What about the single mother who cannot afford to lose a day's pay by refusing to cross a picket line? Should she be subjected to abuse and harassment simply for going to work?
The reason on this side we're objecting is because when people choose to go, when people choose to go on strike, they only get tiny bit of strike pay. They don't get any proper pay. They have families and responsibilities to look after. So nobody is going to go on strike for the hell of it. They're going on strike because they need to go on strike.
Well said.
Isn't he showing with this legislation once again that the Conservative government is standing up for people who want to work against bullies who want to stop them? And this is what fundamentally underlines his approach.
I thank my honourable friend, Mr. Speaker, for highlighting that how this protects the right of working people across the country when they're affected by strike action that has no proper mandate.
I am a lifelong and proud trade unionist. I believe in social partnership at work. I believe that the right of trade unions to exist and represent their members at work is a key liberty in any democracy. I am dismayed that we have a government which believes in attacking trade unions rather than working with them in a spirit of social partnership to improve efficiency, economic efficiency and productivity in our country.
The real agenda of this bill is to stop public sector workers speaking out against the attacks of this government opposite, the attacks on their pay and conditions, and that's the real agenda of this bill.
Well, again, I think it's impossible not to agree with my honourable friend, and I have to say too that it saddens me beyond words that we're here today dealing with the most significant, sustained and partisan attack on 6 million trade union members and their workplace organisations that we have seen in this country in the last 30 years.
The new Shadow Business Secretary, Angela Eagle, there. Now, new homes and where to build them was the main topic of conversation at Communities Questions. The government's committed to building on brownfield land wherever possible, that is, land that's been used before. But that, MPs heard, can be complicated and expensive, although one Conservative said he could think of places near him that were crying out for redevelopment.
It's particularly important to encourage investment in brownfield land where the site in question, such as Springbank Shopping Centre or the former Carlton Street Post Office in my constituency, is a local eyesore which attracts graffiti and other antisocial behaviour.
My honourable friend makes an important point. We want to see homes built on brownfield land. We want to see brownfield land brought back into use. I'm sure as a diligent constituency MP he will be making the case for individual sites in his area, but this is a government that is committed to delivering across the country both the houses we need but also the houses that we need in the right places.
In my constituency of Mid-Derbyshire, there's a large brownfield site being made ready and decontaminated for redevelopment, but it's been left out of Derby City Council's core strategy. As they state, the site will not be ready for development until 2028, in spite of the site manager saying it will be sooner. Does my honourable friend agree that we must prioritise building on brownfield sites such as these?
Mr. Speaker, with the Brownfield Fund, with the accelerated plans, powers that we're giving local authorities for planning on suitable brownfield sites, the direction of travel and intention from government is clear. Local authorities need to look at the opportunities in their areas to ensure that they are deliverable, but also that they are delivered.
There is a national shortage and a crisis in terms of housing and homes for the people that we represent. And he won't get anywhere by this illusion that all can be done through bringing brownfield land. Brownfield land is very expensive very often. It's in the wrong place. The fact of the matter is this government won't acknowledge We've got to build on greenfield in order to provide the homes that we need, but they don't like it. They're terrified of their local
beauty. We cannot ignore the value of our environment. It is something that should be recognised and protected, and it's something that is taken account for in the National Planning Policy Framework. That's
per hectare to over £1.7 million per hectare for the most contaminated land. Can I ask the Minister if you believe in derelict and not used because it can be difficult to remediate?
The range, of course, is not an average, although I recognise the concern that she's bringing to the House. She, like we, Mr Speaker, wants to see brownfield land
each and every year in the last 5 years. So what does the Secretary of State say to the millions of Middle England?
Because in 2009 he said home ownership has been dropping, and I'm not sure that that's such a bad thing. So for him to come now to the House and to be suggesting that the opposite is his view is a turnaround.
What he's saying and what he's doing simply isn't working. And people need affordable homes to rent and to buy to get the chance of a decent start in life. And it is the case in the last 5 years, with Conservative ministers in charge, the number of people getting mortgages is down by over 10%. And Shelter last month showed that families on the Chancellor's so-called living wage will find it impossible and unaffordable to buy in eight out of 326 local authority areas across England.
Under this government, the number of first-time buyers has doubled. And under Help to Buy, the figures just published at the end of last week show 120,000 people have been helped. Working people who are being helped by this government to achieve their dream of a home for the first time. He should be supporting that.
The Community Secretary, Greg Clark. You're watching Monday in Parliament, the main story. Measures to tighten the criteria for industrial action have been debated for the first time in the House of Commons. Still to come, the fundraising activities of charities are under the microscope in the House of Lords. But first, getting people into a job can be a tricky business. The Work and Pensions Committee has been examining the barriers which stop people entering the world of work. And sometimes the solution can be as simple as it is unexpected.
We had a person come to our Working Well pilot who had never worked, 28 years of age, with very good qualifications, but never even managed to get past an interview stage in a job. And when he turned up, had been on the work programme, had been 2 years beyond that seeking work, so was a long way from being work ready or being from the work programme. He turned up to his key worker and he had no teeth. And everybody assumed when they looked at him and he had no teeth, it was either drugs or it was some reason he was, that he was had lost his teeth. Actually, it was through medication when he was younger, so it meant he had lost his confidence, he had no self-esteem, but he couldn't get beyond an interview stage. It wasn't because of his qualifications. So we got through the wraparound service. Immediately we were able to get him support through NHS dentistry, and he had teeth within a month, and he was employed, and I can tell you he's in sustained employment at this stage, and a very happy young man at 28 would have never probably had a job for the rest of his life.
The government's record in getting people into work is very similar to the previous government, but you've done it at half the cost. We are now anxious for you to build on that success, and we will be submitting a short report to you when we've finished taking our evidence. So that's the background. We're really trying to find ways in which, at the end of your stewardship in this Parliament, the record will be even better than in the last Parliament.
In relation to that it hasn't been particularly successful in relation to people with long-term conditions and disabilities. And for example, if we look at people with mental health problems, the success rate is only about 8%. I wonder if you would accept now that in relation, for example, to the work capability assessment, this hasn't been an accurate assessment of people's needs, and in particular in relation to their particular barriers to work.
We have had particular schemes and programmes focused on those with disability to support them into employment. What I would say is that, of course, there's always more to do in this space, and a couple of examples, I think is the best term to use, that I'd like to share with the committee, is that we know for a fact that there is more to do, definitely, in the area of mental health. People with not just mental health issues, but other health conditions or addictions, those with complex needs and barriers. And I think the challenge for us, particularly as we look to develop the work programme and whatever comes after it as well, is in very much in terms of how we work across government, so joint commissioning, how we work with other departments, such as the Department of Health, and we now have a joint unit within my department and health as well, to focus on some of these really challenging areas.
The committee chair wondered where employment support ended and health support began.
Are you getting to the stage where, in fact, you're saying, in a way, which I think you should be able to say, that if we're going to make a real success of the employment programmes, we actually need to have a command over so much of the health budget? Not arguing about whether we increase it or not. So that instead of me going through my doctor because I need something, what we were hearing about in our earlier session, they could actually access that support and help immediately.
Well, Chair, thank you for that. I think it's, this is the space where we have to be. There's no doubt about that in terms of the joint working between the two government departments. And there is no doubt when we look at, people on ESA, people with conditions, they are the ones that we will need to invest more in to get the right outcomes for them.
I do worry that some of the very difficult groups that have been through this couple of programmes we've been discussing earlier on that have been trialled in Manchester, where the proper work programme and then out onto one of the pilots, we still have a huge number that don't